What's up, guys? Jorge Coxach here again with day 13 of the series Preparing Your Heart for Easter. And really, it's preparing your heart for um, what we're going to do this weekend, which is connect with God. And maybe you haven't been in church in a while, and you are going for the first time in a while. And this series will help you to kind of get your mind and your heart ready for really connecting with God, because the work that we do prior to going to church is very important. We connect with God throughout the week, and then we worship God collectively on the weekend. And so I want you to take these devotions as that, as sort of a preparatory process through which you can connect with God, and prepare yourself for collective worship, and actually be a blessing to others and receive the message that God has for you this weekend. So Matthew chapter 21 verses 18 and 19 are the texts for today. Matthew 21 verses 18 and 19. And this is the story of a, a this is what happens after the cleansing of the temple. So we talked a little bit about the cleansing of the temple, where Jesus goes into the temple and he flips over the tables and he lets the animals go, and then he gives them a stern chastisement for what they had done. And it wasn't just because they were buying and selling in the temple, but rather because the place where they were doing it was preventing other people from worshiping God. So they had set up shop in the temple court, where specifically anyone that wasn't a Jew was to come worship. And in this outer court of the temple, it was a very special place where people could connect with God. But they had set up these merchant tables. And despite the fact that they were extorting the people that had traveled long distances to get there and didn't have the means by which to bring animals with them, or just, wanted to uh, get their animals for sacrifice there. They were being extorted, and that's why Jesus calls them a den of thieves. But there was also that layer of preventing people from getting to worship God and being able to connect with God in this place. And this is really where we find that's the foundation and the background for this next verse that we find here. After that, Jesus actually leaves to a place called Bethany, and that's where he spends the night. And then the next morning, the Bible tells us that as he now in the morning, verse 18, as he returned to the city, he was hungry. And this is an important piece here. There was a need that propelled Jesus's actions. So first, he has this need. He's hungry. Then he's going to act on that need. So verse 19, and seeing a fig tree by the road, he came to it and found nothing on it but leaves, and said to it, let no fruit grow on you ever again. Immediately the fig tree withered away. Now, this is a very interesting text, and it speaks to us about the importance of our role as Christians. There was a sermon that was preached recently over at Christ Fellowship that talked about how sometimes the first introduction that people will have to the vine was using the pastor was using this illustration of the vine and the fig tree and all of these things, or the vine and the branches rather. And she said that sometimes the branches will be the first thing that people see instead of the vine. So they'll see the branches first, and then she was talking about how the branches were us. We were the branches. And similarly, this is also the case here. Jesus is coming to this tree in search of fruit. He's hungry. He has a need. There's a reason that's propelling him to actually approach the tree. And as he approached the tree, it had leaves, so it looked like it could have fruit, but then it had no fruit. So it looked the part, but it lacked the fruit. I'll say that again. It looked the part, but it lacked the fruit. And this is really where we need to self analyze our own life, because being a Christian isn't just about looking like a Christian and looking the part and doing the right things so that other Christians or other church members won't judge you and won't look at you weird. Being a Christian is about bearing fruit. So it's not just about looking like you can bear fruit or looking like you are someone that bears fruit. It's about actually bearing fruit. And so Jesus's approach to this was the same approach that he has in the temple. He's upset with a fig tree, but he's not upset because he didn't get something to eat. He's upset because this is the same thing. It's a metaphor to what's happening with Israel. People are coming to the people of Israel. They're coming to these people who had the holy oracles. They had the Bible, so to speak, as we know it, the Old Testament. They had the Bible for all of these years. They had interactions with God. They had prophets. They had God's deliverance and had seen his hand in a mighty way throughout their narrative, throughout their history. And people were supposed to be approaching this group, this nation, with the idea that they would connect to God, because God's objective wasn't just to bless the Jews. It wasn't just for the Israelites to be prosperous. God's objective was to bless the world. For God so loved the world that he sent Jesus Christ. It wasn't just for one group of people. And so the same thing can happen to us in the local church. It's not, God isn't just here to save your local church or your local denomination. God is here to save the world. And we need to be the kind of people that are willing to branch out, that are willing to connect people with Christ. My wife spoke about this recently, where she said that a lot of the people that we interact with out there aren't necessarily unchurched people. They're not necessarily people that have never been Christians, that have never heard of the word, that have never been in a church. Rather, they are people that used to be church members and are no longer church members. Most of the people that you are interacting with out there have been church members and are no longer in a church. And why? Because they went to the fig tree and there was no fruit. This was happening to Israel, and it's happening to us today. The point here is that we need to be the kind of people, the kind of church, the kind of fig tree that has fruit. The kind of fig tree that when people approach us, we have what they need. What is it that they need? People need peace. People need love. People need joy. And you would say, oh, well, those things are so, that's, what do you mean? That's all? Like, people need, yeah, they also need things like food. They may need things like clothing. They may need things like physical, like shelter. They may need physical things. We are placed here to serve. We are placed here to give. And the objective that each and every one of us should have is that when somebody approaches me, they see Christ. They see the fruit that the Spirit provides and that the Spirit produces, that they interact with me, but they interact with somebody that'll lead them to Christ. Some of us have that clear in our minds, and some of us are still working on that. And if that's the case with you, I encourage you today to do some soul searching. This message isn't for somebody else, it's for you. And if you are the kind of person that's in the position to be able to connect with somebody to Christ, then let your life be that. Be that vehicle through which others connect. Be that medium through which others are brought to the cross. Be that medium that helps somebody, that provides for somebody. Be a fig tree that bears fruit. God bless you. Thank you so much for your time and for your attention. I hope that this helps. And if it did, don't forget to share it and to comment below. Have a great day.